Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 21st Spotlight edition of the Frank and Stan chat. And for those of you watching on video, you'll see that we have a guest who we have had before, Tom Zebedee. Hello, Tom.
Hello, hi.
Yeah,
Hi, Frank. Hi,
yeah.
Stan.
I can't remember how long ago. It must be about a year ago, was it?
Yeah, 15 months maybe, something like
Right,
that.
right.
Yeah.
So time flies. And also, Tom has put us in contact with a colleague called Noeleen Schenk. Hello, Noeleen.
I Hi, know. Stan. Hi, Frank.
Yeah, it's
To meet
great.
both of you. Hey,
Yeah.
Tom.
Hi, Noeleen.
Hang on, let's see. Tom, where are you sitting at the moment? What part of the country are you in?
I'm in Clitheroe. I've just which has just had a royal visit this morning,
I
actually.
was just
So
going to
it's,
say the king's
it.
in Clitheroe.
yeah, we can't get anywhere in time.
Well-
All the streets are closed and stuff.
Oh, are they? Right. Well,
Yeah.
we've not had the king on yet, have we, Stan?
No,
we're
I'll
heading
give
that
him a
way.
shout. Yeah.
Yeah. And Noeleen, where are you based?
I'm based in Herefordshire, so just near Ledbury
Oh, yeah, I know it very well. Yeah,
in the rolling hills.
yeah, lovely. Okay, Stan, how are you feeling this morning?
I'm
Or
fine
this
this morning,
afternoon, I
thank you.
should say.
Oh yeah, no, fine, absolutely fine.
Great,
Bless
great.
you.
Okay. Now, Tom, can you give us a bit of an update about what's been going on in the life of Tom Zebedee and the small business that you started a few years ago?
Yeah. Well, hi again. It's really good. It's really good to be speaking to everybody. I'm kind of representing two businesses today because behind me is Cyberculture, which I've done some work with Stan and yourself with, which is really around human factors in cyber, and a bit more of that in a minute. But I'm also going to talk a little bit about the work that I do with BlueSock,
Oh, yeah.
because I think that's really, really pertinent to what's going on in the cyber world at the minute. So if it's okay, I'll quickly do where we are with cyber and what BlueSock do around that, and then I'll segue, hopefully seamlessly, from Cyberculture to
Well, I
Noeleen.
like these
That's
guests.
that's
Yeah.
my plan. It is. So I suppose it'd be really helpful to maybe sketch out where we are now compared to where we were 15 months ago from a kind of overall cyber perspective. And it's not a particularly positive picture, I don't think.
Right.
You know, as cyber threats continue to grow, we're going to talk a little bit about AI in a minute. We're starting to see the kind of the influence of AI, and that's leading to more sophisticated attacks and things like that. So it's definitely something that leaders need to be conscious about and conscious of. I think there's a general take up of training and certification, I think, is on the upward curve, but it's quite slow, and I think it's hard for leaders to find the time to do the sort of things that me and Stan have done and other things like that. So, but in the company that I work for, we spend BlueSock spends a lot of time doing certification for organizations to kind of deal with the commodity cyber threat, and that's really around phishing and things like that.
Yeah.
So, way over 90% of attacks will be because somebody's trying to steal something from you, and we spend a lot of time doing accreditation to Cyber Essentials, and Cyber Essentials is a NCSC backed. Well, it's a standard really, which covers 5 of the kind of most basic things that you should do as an organization, and the NCSC, I think, are increasingly of the view that you've kind of got to have Cyber Essentials. If you don't have Cyber Essentials, you're probably not really paying the sort of due diligence that you ought to.
So can I just ask, are
yeah.
some organizations that are engaging in this, are they doing it in order to get the certificate, just to show that if there was an attack, they can say, oh, look, board, I've done my bit. It was all around that. I mean,
I don't think so. I think people do it because there's a little bit of an incentive to get Cyber Essentials, because if you get Cyber Essentials, you can then draw down some free cyber assurance.
right.
So insurance, and that comes, I think, I think it might come from Allianz. So it's, it's not, it is a proper insurance policy.
Yeah.
And because you do that, because you've done cyber essentials, I think the chances of you claiming on your cyber insurance is reduced by about 90%.
Oh,
so
wow.
you can see why
Wow.
people
Wow.
kind of, and it's because you're looking after your firewalls, you're looking after malware, all of those really basic hygiene things that you can do in the technical space are dealt with. So I think if more people knew that, more people would get it. It's not a massively expensive thing to get, in a small company or a small school. Might be the cost of a couple of iPhones, or other phones are available.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not huge amounts of money. So there's definitely a correlation between doing that and the likelihood of you being attacked.
Right.
And the other thing that's probably worth saying is if you're in business and maybe trying to sell things, if you're trying to sell anything to the government, increasingly you're going to be asked, have you got Cyber Essentials or Cyber Essentials Plus, which is really just an audited version of Cyber Essentials.
Right.
So there's something there. I should say that the two quick things. The NCSC are spending quite a bit of time in the school and university space at the minute. Really, lots of stuff about Sheffield and all that kind of stuff, which has been in the news. But Cyber Essentials has a little bit of a tweak in it for schools, which it doesn't have for businesses, which is around the fact that you've got lots and lots of pupils with lots and lots of devices.
Right. Yeah.
And how do you kind of manage that part where, you've got lots of devices which you don't own interacting with the information that you hold in the organization? So I think it's quite good that NCSC have kind of thought about, you can't possibly manage all of those devices. I don't know how big some of your schools are, Frank and Stan, but I'm sure they're well over 1,000 pupils. It's just too many devices to deal with. So there's quite a good little pathway there in school space to kind of deal with your risks, but also deal with the day-to-day things that you have to manage in a school setting. So I think, summing all that up, the threat's still there. It's increasing every year, and the focus at the minute is on the commodity threat, which, if you deal with that, you're probably going to significantly reduce the risks that you've got in schools. And if you need some help, please come and reach out to BlueSock, and we'll talk you through how to do that.
And that link will be at the end of the video as well.
Yeah, we'll pop that in.
So if you're on the podcast, I'll put it in the descriptor as well for the podcast, so that you can see that.
Yeah.
Now, how did you connect with Noeleen then? How did that all happen?
Well, myself and Noeleen have been working together, talking to each other since I left Ofsted. What's up? About nearly 2 years ago now. I don't know where that time's gone. But prior to that, the company which Noeleen works for worked in Ofsted. So I'm kind of I know them from working with us or them. I'm over being us now, them, around trying to better organize the information which we had in our information systems. There was a bit of a focus on SharePoint, but I suspect, Noeleen, you'll talk about lots of different systems and stuff like that. So that was really around, how do you organize your information so that you can find things more appropriately and more effectively? Right. And I thought that today, the thing that we might be interested in is, as we inject more and more AI tools into our learning kind of environment, the same things kind of apply. One, is it secure from a cyber perspective? And two, is the information organized in a way which allows you to get the best out of the AI systems that you're using? We all know the risks, and I think Noeleen will talk about those in a minute. But I thought that might be quite an interesting perspective on things. As my wife's a teacher, and I know it's around, and I know people are using it. So that's where I thought maybe we could have a little bit of a chat about, how do we organize things in a way that gets the best things out of the information that we have?
That's great. Now, Noeleen, before you get into that, can you just spend 30 seconds or so just explaining your career and how you've got to here, while you're chatting to Frank and Stan?
Okay. In a few seconds. So I started as a librarian.
Right.
So trained as a librarian, which is always great. I mean, it was just fabulous. And so for me, that brain of organizing and structuring comes very naturally. It's definitely in my space. And I've been consulting in the information management space and moving away from libraries and sort of, if you like, public domain published information through to internal
Right.
information in an organization. So it was a little sideways jig across, and I've been doing that for about 30 years now. Yes, I know I don't look young enough. But it is, yeah. So essentially, I worked on my own, as a frontline member of staff, helping, sort of being an information manager, records manager, and then eventually working with a consultancy. So being a director of Metaxis. So very briefly, Metaxis is an information management consultancy. So we work with clients to help them understand what they've got, where it is, who owns it, how's it structured, how's it governed, and so basically that through that entire life cycle of the information management. And we'll do anything from sort of strategy work, discovery and strategy work, through to actually implementing systems. So helping organizations, essentially, I suppose, two things, and which is, one is around protection. Tom's spoken a lot about that. There's schools and all other organizations that have got legal and regulatory obligations to look after their content and keep their content as evidence of what activities they've done. And that's great. That compliance is a bit of a stick. But actually, for me, I quite like focusing on the carrot, which is actually, the carrot is, if you organize things well and you look after it well and you've got the right governance in and so forth, actually you can use your content better. You can find it when you need it. You can evidence your decisions. You're not redoing work. If you think about all the time we all waste looking for something that we think we know we've got somewhere.
That's me. That's me. Definitely me.
Exactly. Or finding something and they're not sure if it's the right thing, if it's the most up to date.
Or the most recent. Yeah, that is the most frustrating.
This is it. So actually, this is all about, putting that governance wrapper around your content means that you can start having confidence in your content and the content that your colleagues have produced, to know that you are seeing the truth, and therefore you can step forward and make a decision and not waste time with not finding it or rework or unpicking a decision. So all of those, it's all of those good things. So for me,
one of the things that that's all right, don't worry. One of the things that I thought might be of interest, particularly for school colleagues, is the ability to be able to put your hands on evidence, particularly at the minute. If you were thinking about if you did have an upcoming inspection, quickly getting to the most current document and all that kind of stuff, and trying to take some of that kind of just that management stress that people have whenever our old colleagues turn up for it.
Yeah.
And I'd say, just added to that, Tom, I mean, you're absolutely right. And I think the challenge is always that not everybody's brain is, all our brains are wired differently, right? I like organizing things. I love to organize.
You've got the look of somebody who wants to organize stuff, files.
Well, I've even got a library behind me.
I know, and I just feel as though I'm a little bit more in the sort of arty type world,
Yeah. For me, I am so envious of people. I desperately want to organize, and it may look behind as if I am organized.
It does.
It's chaos. They're actually in by author. All leadership books in the middle shelf, all ordered by author.
That's like a library. Feeling like
which
a
is
library.
Okay, except that sometimes you don't remember the author's name. So then you've got to look through all the books.
That's completely it. And I think that because we're wired differently, it's quite difficult to go in and help somebody organize. But what you're trying to do is almost go to the lowest of common denominator and make that organization as easy as possible, so that actually, you are a leader and you're busy, you're busy working with the board or the governors on something, but actually the information is so easily organized that you can find it
Yes.
without having to think about it, because it's not like expecting everybody all of a sudden to become organized information managers. If you structure your content in a in a good way, actually you don't have to think about it anymore. So it actually reduces that cognitive burden of trying to remember where everything is. And actually also that burden of squirreling away copies of everything. I mean, I'm working with a client at the moment, and something like 60% of their content is duplicated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
get the warning on my computer that it's when it does a screen, it says you've got so many duplicated files, so many
exactly.
big files. Oh,
Yes. It's hard work, but the point that what we try and do is, if you put down some of your
Carry,
foundations, um,
carry
if
on.
you put down some of the foundational activities, like you understand what your structure is, you understand some of the governance, so you know who owns your content, and you can start, and you delete things that you don't need, because we're all squirrely as well, aren't
Yeah.
we? But the problem is it's noise.
Do you want to say something, Noeleen, about maybe how technology can help? Because
Oh,
I
completely.
my conversations with kind of, really senior colleagues in the past have kind of, a lot of the time people have focused on, well, how much time is that going to take? And
Yes.
And
how
how do
will
you,
we get people to kind of
yeah,
follow the
that's it. So
taxonomy and all that kind of
I mean,
stuff?
yeah, I think that's a really important point, Tom, because I think
Yeah.
I'm sort of sabotaging other people's good systems, you know what I mean, by not following them. So I feel as though, I mean, particularly when I worked for Ofsted, Tom, that,
Mhm.
I just couldn't, I just found it very hard to, to follow
Yeah.
the sort of links into various files where things
Yeah.
needed to be stored.
Yeah, we had a list, Frank, and you were on it. So you were definitely.
So this is the question for me then, Noeleen, is around,
Yes.
people like you are really sort of wedded to this, but there are these outliers like me, and I'll put Stan in there as well,
yeah.
who actually are not followers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
like the idea of doing it for a short period of time, but then it becomes sort of like a bit,
It's hard.
yeah, it's
Oh,
yeah,
completely.
It's also, I think, when you're rushed, Frank. So you finish a document, you
Yeah.
think, oh, I better save that. What should I call it? And you make a name up, and you've no idea where you've saved it,
Yeah.
because the
Because
computer's
you're on
done
to the
that
next
one.
thing.
yeah,
Yes. And I absolutely agree. And I think, Tom, thanks for the segue, because actually, the days of, putting it into a nice paper file. I mean, you remember I remember anyway, the old filing systems
yes,
and so
yes,
forth. Um, but actually, we are, particularly with the onset of AI, whether it's, generative AI or agentic, or actually, other types of AI tools, they are, in a weird way, which is absolutely brilliant, they are now starting to offer some of that nirvana, that a user can pop something where they want it, but it can be found, it can be categorized to do that. So, there are a lot of tools now, and actually we're working with a government agency, um, where they are experimenting with, and I mean this, with using AI to generate taxonomies, and how to describe and how to structure content. So the ontologies, which an ontology is just something that describes the relationships between information,
right,
but that gives you context. So by using, by essentially, your technology is going to get to a point where actually, Stan, you can pop your information where you want it. But the bottom line is, if the access is there, and if the tool can get access to your content, so you're sharing the content on shared platforms, then actually it doesn't matter, because the tool is doing almost the governance in the background.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's
Right.
a
So
silver
actually,
bullet,
it
isn't it?
Yeah.
starts,
Yeah.
Does this
you know, it
sounds like
produces burden.
what it sounds like is when you've said, do you remember the old paper system? My paper system when I was ahead was a pile of things on my desk, and if someone
Okay.
wanted something, I had to remember when it had come in, and I could go down like, well, that was January, that's February, it's
Yeah.
probably around here. And when I look at my computer storage, it's the same.
Yeah. Which, has a
More
logic
work
all of
on
its
date.
own. And I
Yes.
think that, this is the thing. I mean, I think that we all have our own logic. I talked about how we're all wired differently. We all have a logic, but actually what you're looking for, and AI is starting to show promise for that, is that actually it doesn't matter what your logic is because it can do stuff in the background.
Right. Yeah.
And, so I think that, being able to categorize your information or without you having to do anything, because let's be honest, the burden on the user is massive.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And you want to get rid of that. But the other side is that, and if you think about, say, something like SharePoint, and I mean, Tom mentioned already that we do a lot of work in the SharePoint and the M365 space. The implementation of purview and retention schedules, which just basically, when things are past retention, they get deleted automatically,
Right.
so that you're not asking people to make those
Right.
decisions because they are not making those decisions.
Yes.
And the volumes are too much. I mean, and AI is very hungry for volume, which talks to the fact that we all squirrel away. But actually, you need to be able to, it needs the volume, but what it also needs, more importantly, is the ability for systems to be integrated. So in a, in an organization, or, in a school, or a set of academies, the systems need to be able to be API connected so that there's an interoperability between the content.
Yes.
But for that, you need good data quality,
Yes.
because then,
Yeah.
apples need to be described as apples. But AI can actually help identify those to help standardize that as well. So I suppose what I'm saying in a very long-winded way is there's help out there.
Right.
But the foundations have to be right.
Yeah. And I think we are in a really, really exciting time with AI. I think if you set aside all of the
Yeah.
horror stories, we had this old law in computing, Moore's law, which was around how quickly computing power developed over time, and it's this exponential, increase in computing power, from them sending the Apollo spacecraft to the moon with, probably about the same computing power as is in a calculator.
Yes.
And then 10 years later, you're just into different things. And AI is moving so quickly now. I mean, even from sort of the first lookings at it 2 or 3 years ago to where we are now, the tools are more capable, more user-friendly. They're separating into kind of different things as well. So the education space, you might be using Claude or something like that, or you might be closer to one of the bigger companies like Gemini or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But each of those tools are going to find their niche. And I think this kind of stuff is where people will really see a benefit.
Yeah.
And it's almost, it's the best place to have it in lots of ways, because this isn't taking anybody's job here, because nobody's doing this. Nobody has ever been able to find the time to properly tag their documents, really. And, maybe the British Library does, but probably not very many other places. So you're not taking anybody, you're doing something that we've just never had the capability to find the time to do. So the technological tools are going to be a bit of a game changer in this space, I suspect.
Yeah.
I mean,
but sorry, Frank,
no,
please.
go on, Noeleen. No, you carry on.
I was just going to say, though, the tools are the game changer, but for you to reap the benefits of the tools being a game changer, there is some fundamental, if you like, I mean, Tom, you mentioned before, hygiene work.
Right.
You mentioned the word hygiene in the terms of, cyber essentials, which I'd absolutely agree with. The other side is there's sort of almost information management hygiene work, which is making sure that you know what you've got, that you've got some of your policies defined, so that then the tool has got the framework to work within, because you can't just take a tool and throw it out. It needs its guardrails. And don't forget that some of the tools like, Gen AI, so generative AI, that are creating content, you also want to capture where that content comes from. So the provenance of that content, because you need to know if you can trust it.
Yes.
The tools are still subject to hallucinations. They do still find the common, they're probabilistic rather than, a single truth. So there needs to be an education about people being analytical about those sources. Good old common information literacy, which we bandied about and for a long time. And I remember being taught in my school and in my first year of university. And I think that's necessary, that people understand that. But then also, it is providing the guardrails for the tools to then do the thing that they're super smart at. And then, people can go and do the jobs that they need to do, and sort of work with the tools, the sort of human in the loop concept.
Are you guys, Stan or Frank, are you using any AI, producing PowerPoints, that kind of thing?
Go on, Stan, you go first.
A little. I use ChatGPT and what's the other one with Microsoft?
Copilot.
OpenAI and Copilot.
Yeah, but there's a lot of editing that you have to do. It's at times it's easier just to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's good. What I use ChatGPT is a bit of research. Like I'd look at ChatGPT. I'm going to do a presentation on Martin's Law. So I'd ask it, what are the key features of Martin's Law? How does that affect schools? Blah, blah, blah. And then I would use that information then to do the PowerPoint.
But that's in a way like dropping a stone into a pebble, isn't it? And it sort of rolls out, capturing everything.
Yes.
And I think I'm interested in the point around, how do you get people like Stan and me in an organization to actually follow the rules of appropriate saving to certain files, so that in effect your sort of system can actually sort of know that it can dig into this well where all of the stuff is, and actually give you a more reliable, I suspect, I hope, possibly,
I think
response.
You're right.
So I'm trying to say, because I'm interested in the governance of that. Is it simply a case of, you say to me, Noeleen, look, if you don't follow that, then actually that's really a serious breach of of our system. Is it going to take that, or is it, or just careful encouragement, to get the right
you need the law and order
to do
Bob.
It properly.
To be honest, I think it's a bit of both. Sorry, Tom.
It's carrot and stick. You need a bit of both.
It is a bit of both. Yeah, completely. Right. But I think that, let's just take, I don't know, you're using a platform like SharePoint, okay, and it's using Copilot to search and surface content. If it will respect security boundaries. So as long as you don't say, I, Frank, am saving it here, but only I, Frank, can access this.
It, yes.
So that's also where we're talking about governance and permissions, because there are certain things that I, Frank, will only want to see and nobody else should see, because it's my, I don't know, my review or something like that. Yeah. But actually, it is moving people towards a slightly more open way of working, a slightly more sharing way of working. But at least if it's on a single platform, then actually one can write the retention rules, which make sure you're not deleting it. One can also write the parameter rules, in terms of searching. It'll search the whole platform.
Can you link it to role-based access then, Noeleen? So in other words, if Stan worked for Frank, something says, well, Frank, Stan can't see his personnel records or something like that, so or someone else's personnel records.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, completely. I think, when I talk about governance, it's often with a little g because it is, access and permissions. So what you can
Right,
do and what you
right.
can see, but it's also around making sure that there's ownership and that it's, it's all the behavioral stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's not something you need to do again, is it? Because if you've got
no,
a good
No,
Sims system, it's going to already have, worked out who the head teacher is and who the bursar
exactly.
is, and the
yes,
bursar
yes.
deals with the money or
Yeah,
whatever it might be. So you don't
yeah,
have to reinvent those rules. You can import them,
yeah,
Noeleen, and
exactly.
yeah,
And I think also, I mean, if we take schools have many structured systems, many structured databases, and and those structures will be, made up of items
Mm,
which will give you descriptors. Um, you know, and so if you can use the same common descriptors on something unstructured where appropriate, you're starting to build up that level of interoperability
right,
between
yes.
systems. So, I mean, I'm working with a client at the moment that isn't a school, but actually they've got like 4 words for draft and approved, and because we all do that,
Yes.
and their dates are in different structures.
Yeah, just little
Um,
things like that.
it's
Oh, yeah,
baby
yeah, yeah.
things, but they are very common gotchas that you could fix
Yes.
quite without too much
Yeah,
pain.
yeah, yeah.
I was going to
Um,
say, when I try and fix that, I mean, my staff send me an Excel spreadsheet with the work that they've done, and I paste it in. And the fact that things aren't centered when they are on my master sheet, or the date's written
yes,
differently, drives me mad.
completely.
But having sent a new spreadsheet out for them to follow, they all adjust it and change it so that it suits their
Yes.
needs.
yeah.
Yes.
Right.
There's
Well,
always there's
yeah.
always one, but there's certain things that one ought to lock down.
Can I say we've just run over 30 odd minutes, so that's normally how long we go for. Tom, a little plug for both of you. I mean, in terms of if anybody wants to get in touch with you, Tom, how do they do that?
Well, I think on this subject, I would go to tom.zebedee at bluesock.co.uk and we'll come and help you get your basic cyber certifications and stuff like that.
Fabulous. And for you, Noeleen?
It would be Noeleen.Schenk at metaxis.com. So, Frank, it's the email address that you used within the invite.
That's great.
And yeah, just reach out and we can have a chat and we can see whether what can be done. And because you work in collaboration with a client, right?
Yes. And I think, yeah, actually just having that conversation, it's difficult to know until you've had that conversation. How easy is the solution?
Exactly.
How much work would it involve to actually get to a point where you're
Yeah.
in a much better place?
Yeah. And I think one ought to realize that this is a maturity process.
Mm,
So it's not you start from zero and all of a sudden you're perfect. It's little incremental changes. And I think sometimes that's what people forget is that this is not a one size fits all and it's not a, 0 to 100. It's actually, if we do this bit, we can improve a little bit and then we can do another bit and we can improve. And I'm a firm believer in little steps and basically eating an elephant little bite at a time, because it's the only way. Otherwise it does feel like too bigger and too thornier a problem.
yes. Well,
Perhaps Apple could help because when I got a new computer, Apple is very good at putting one computer next to the other and moving everything across.
Yes.
Perhaps an AI intervention there that says, "What the heck is this?"
Should you really?
We've had these for 25 years on different computers.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right, I'm going to bring it to a close. Thank you both very much.
You're
It's
very
been
welcome.
a real pleasure talking to you, and as is often the case with these spotlight editions, you know, Stan and I learned so much. So again, the details of Tom and Noeleen's organisations will be the end of this video if you didn't catch it when they spoke their email addresses to you. But anyway, until the next spotlight, it's cheerio. Bye bye, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks a
Bye.
lot. Take care then. Bye.